Hello, this is the owner of the Horror Docs channel. I would like to say that if you liked my content, you could subscribe, thereby help the channel to promote, and I will have more desire to improve and make quality content. There are almost 1,000 subscribers already. Thank you all. Here we go. It was a sunny afternoon in Minnesota in the summer of 2013, and Jane and her husband Mark were looking to sell their old iPhones. They had decided to use Craigslist to find a potential buyer, hoping to make a quick sale. After posting an ad online, they received several responses from interested buyers. They eventually settled on one, a man named Tyler Ronald Stewart, who seemed eager to buy the phones and willing to meet up in person. The couple arranged to meet Tyler at a local park, where they felt safe and in the open. They arrived at the park and saw a young man standing near a tree, holding a phone and looking around nervously. As they approached him, Tyler quickly pulled out a gun from his pocket, pointing it straight at them. The couple froze in fear, unable to move or react. "Give me your phones and wallets, or I'll shoot," Tyler said, his voice shaky but determined. Jane and Mark quickly handed over their phones and wallets, hoping that he would leave them alone. But Tyler was not satisfied. He demanded more, threatening to shoot them if they didn't comply. Terrified for their lives, the couple gave him everything they had on them. Tyler snatched the items and ran off, disappearing into the nearby woods. Shaken and traumatized, Jane and Mark immediately called the police, who arrived at the scene within minutes. They took down the couple's statement and launched a full investigation. With the help of surveillance footage and eyewitness accounts, the police were able to identify Tyler as one of the attackers. They tracked him down and arrested him, charging him with assault and robbery with a weapon. During his trial, Tyler pleaded guilty to the charges, admitting to his role in the crime. He also revealed that he and his accomplices had been high on drugs at the time of the attack, making them more aggressive and violent. The judge sentenced Tyler to 27 years in prison, sending a clear message that such acts of violence and aggression would not be tolerated in their community. Meanwhile, Jane and Mark struggled to come to terms with the trauma they had experienced. They realized that they had been lucky to escape with their lives and decided to never take any risks like that again. My opinion. In conclusion, the story of Jane and Mark's ordeal highlights the dangers of using Craigslist to make deals with strangers. It serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us to always be vigilant and take necessary precautions when conducting transactions with unknown individuals. By following safety guidelines and being aware of potential risks, we can protect ourselves and avoid becoming victims of violent crimes like robbery and assault. In 2016, the small town of Colorado was shaken by a horrific incident that made people question the safety of buying and selling online. It all started when a man named Jack decided to sell his Xbox on Craigslist. He posted the ad and soon received a message from a potential buyer who wanted to purchase it. The buyer, who called himself Mike, agreed to meet Jack in a public place near his home. Jack felt relieved that he had found a buyer so quickly and eagerly drove to the meeting point. However, when he arrived, he found two men waiting for him instead of one. The two men, who looked much younger than Mike, asked Jack to follow them to another place where they could make the transaction. Jack hesitated at first, but the two men seemed friendly and polite, so he agreed to follow them. Big mistake. As soon as they got in the car, the two men attacked Jack with a blunt object and took his car keys. They then drove him to a remote area of the town, where they continued to beat him until he was unconscious. The last thing Jack remembered was the sound of his own screams echoing through the empty streets. Hours later, a passerby found Jack lying in a pool of blood and called the ambulance. Jack was rushed to the hospital, where he underwent emergency surgery to save his life. The doctors said that he had suffered a severe concussion and several fractures, and that he was lucky to be alive. Meanwhile, the police had launched an investigation into the incident They managed to track down the two assailants, who turned out to be a 16-year-old and an 18-year-old boy from a nearby town. The police arrested them and charged them with attempted murder, robbery, and car theft. As the news of the incident spread, people in Colorado and beyond began to question the safety of buying and selling online. Some vowed never to use Craigslist or any other online platform again, while others urged caution and vigilance. The incident had a profound impact on Jack's life. He suffered from severe PTSD and had to undergo months of therapy to overcome the trauma. He also had to pay hefty medical bills and car repair costs, as his vehicle was damaged during the attack. He decided to share his story with the media to raise awareness about the dangers of online transactions and to urge people to be more careful. In the end, the two assailants were sentenced to several years in prison for their crimes. Jack moved on with his life, but he could never forget the horror he had experienced that day. He learned a valuable lesson that he wanted to share with others. Always be cautious and never take unnecessary risks when dealing with strangers, online or offline. My opinion: the story above taught me the importance of being cautious when dealing with strangers online. It's important to take precautions, such as meeting in public places and trusting my instincts when something seems suspicious. I also learned that sharing my experiences with others can help raise awareness and prevent similar incidents from happening to others. In the small town of Millfield, located in the heart of Illinois, there was a dark and disturbing incident that shook the community to its core. It all started with a simple iPhone listing on Craigslist. Mark, a college student, was looking to make some extra cash by selling his old iPhone. He posted an ad on Craigslist, and within a few days, he received a response from a potential buyer named John. John seemed interested in the phone and asked to meet in person to finalize the deal. Mark, eager to make the sale, agreed to meet John at a nearby park. He didn't think much of it at the time, as he had bought and sold items on Craigslist before without incident. But when he arrived at the park, John was not alone. He was accompanied by two other men, who seemed to be lurking in the shadows. Mark's instincts told him that something was off, but before he could react, John attacked him. In a moment of sheer terror, Mark was shot and left for dead. When the police arrived on the scene, they found Mark bleeding profusely on the ground. They rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late. Mark had succumbed to his injuries and passed away that same night. The news of Mark's murder spread quickly throughout the town, and people were outraged. The police launched a full-scale investigation, and within a few days, they had identified John as the prime suspect. They discovered that John had a criminal history and had been involved in other theft and violence related to Craigslist transactions. The police finally apprehended John and charged him with Mark's murder. He was also found guilty of other crimes related to Craigslist scams and thefts. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The community was relieved that justice had been served, but they were also deeply disturbed by the tragedy that had occurred. Mark's family and friends were devastated by their loss, and they couldn't help but wonder what could have been done to prevent it. The incident served as a stark reminder of the dangers of conducting business with strangers online. It highlighted the importance of taking precautions when meeting with people in person and being vigilant for signs of suspicious behavior. It was a harsh lesson for everyone involved, and it left a lasting impact on the community. My opinion: the story above highlights the importance of being cautious when conducting transactions with strangers online. It serves as a reminder to always be vigilant and aware of suspicious behavior, especially when meeting in person. It's a lesson that can save lives and prevent tragic incidents from occurring. In April 2019, the vibrant city of San Antonio, Texas, was shaken by a brutal incident that left many locals in fear. A man named Ramiro Perez decided to sell his car, a shiny red 2015 Ford Mustang through Craigslist. He had kept the car in pristine condition, and he was confident that he would fetch a fair price for it. Ramiro had arranged to meet a potential buyer at a nearby park, hoping to make the sale quickly and without any issues. On the day of the meeting, Ramiro woke up early, excited about the prospect of selling his beloved car. He washed it carefully, making sure every inch was spotless, and drove it to the park. As he pulled into the parking lot, he noticed a group of young men loitering near the entrance, but he dismissed them, assuming they were just there to enjoy the sunny weather. Ramiro got out of the car and approached the group of men. They seemed friendly enough, and he greeted them warmly. But as he handed over the car keys to the supposed buyer, one of the young men lunged at him, knocking him to the ground. Before he could recover, the group of men had jumped into his car and sped off, leaving Ramiro in shock and pain. The incident left Ramiro shaken and traumatized. He had never experienced such violence before, and he felt violated that his car, his prized possession, had been snatched away from him so easily. He immediately reported the theft to the police, hoping they would be able to recover his car and bring the culprits to justice. In the following days, the police investigated the incident and discovered that Ramiro's case was not an isolated one. Just a few days earlier, another car had been stolen through Craigslist using a similar modus operandi. The police managed to apprehend 2 suspects, but the rest of the attackers were still at large. The incident sent shockwaves through the community, and people became more cautious about buying and selling items through Craigslist. Ramiro's case was a chilling reminder that not everyone on the internet could be trusted, and that one had to be careful and take safety precautions when dealing with strangers. My opinion: Ramiro's story is a cautionary tale about the dangers of dealing with strangers on the internet. It is important to take precautions and be vigilant, especially when buying or selling high-value items. The incident left Ramiro traumatized, but he was lucky to have his car returned to him. The incident serves as a reminder that one can never be too careful when it comes to one's safety and security. It was a typical summer day in Arlington, Texas, when 26-year-old Kerry Johnson decided to sell his iPhone through Craigslist. He had used the site before and had always had positive experiences, so he didn't think twice about it. He posted his ad, and within a few hours he received a message from a potential buyer who was interested in the phone. The buyer seemed normal enough and even agreed to meet Kerry at a nearby apartment complex. Kerry was a bit hesitant, but he figured that it would be okay since it was a public place. He didn't want to take any chances, so he brought a friend along with him to the meeting. When Kerry arrived, he met the buyer in the parking lot of the apartment complex. The buyer inspected the phone and then asked Kerry to remove the SIM card for inspection. Kerry didn't think anything of it and proceeded to remove the SIM card. As soon as he did, the buyer pulled out a gun from his pocket and attacked him. Kerry's friend tried to intervene, but it was too late. The buyer shot Kerry several times, hitting him in the chest and thigh. The attacker then fled the scene, leaving Kerry lying on the ground in critical condition. The police were called immediately, and Kerry was rushed to the hospital. Despite the best efforts of the medical staff, Kerry didn't make it. He died of his injuries a few hours later. The police quickly launched an investigation into the incident. They discovered that the buyer had used a fake Craigslist account to contact Kerry and had planned the attack well in advance. The attacker had been waiting in the parking lot for some time and had even scoped out the area beforehand. A few days later, the police arrested 18-year-old Dion Williams on charges of murder and robbery. Williams had a criminal record and had been involved in other violent crimes in the past. The community was shocked by the incident, and it served as a harsh reminder of the dangers of online transactions. The police advised people to exercise caution when using sites like Craigslist and to take precautions when meeting with strangers. Carrie's family was devastated by the loss, but they were comforted by the outpouring of support from the community. They started a foundation in his memory dedicated to raising awareness about the dangers of online transactions and promoting safety guidelines for people to follow. In the end, Carrie's death was a tragic reminder of the need for caution and vigilance in our daily lives. It's important to be aware of our surroundings and to take steps to protect ourselves from potential dangers. By working together, we can help prevent similar tragedies from occurring in the future. My opinion: the story of Carrie Johnson's tragic death reminds us that we must be cautious when conducting transactions with strangers, especially online. It's important to take precautions, such as meeting in public places and thoroughly vetting the other person, to protect ourselves from potential dangers. We must always be vigilant and prioritize our safety.